Remember those snowy days in the poppy fields,
Yeah.
in Oz? It was pure asbestos.
Yeah.
Pure asbestos. We're diving into the dark side of The Wizard of Oz today, a film I'm sure many of us, well, grew up with.
Yeah, it really is fascinating, how a movie that evokes such wonder, such childhood wonder, could have such a dark history, almost as if the magic on screen was created at a very real human cost.
For sure. Absolutely. It's time to peel back that curtain
Right.
and see what was going on back then. So let's start with the Tin Man. There's this persistent rumor that the original Tin Man actually died from the silver makeup. Is there any truth to that?
Well, thankfully, Buddy Epson, who was the original Tin Man, he didn't die. But his experience, it's still pretty harrowing. So to create that metallic sheen, they use aluminum dust.
Uh-huh.
And he ended up inhaling so much of it that his lungs were coated.
Aluminum dust. Wow. That
Yeah.
sounds pretty dangerous. Especially for someone, spending hours in heavy makeup.
It was. He suffered from labored breathing, chest pains, cramping. He eventually collapsed and needed an iron lung to survive.
Oh my gosh, that's really scary. Did MGM know about the dangers of aluminum dust?
Oh, they knew. And get this, they were furious about Ebson's absence, and they pressured him to return to filming. They even tried to downplay the toxicity, claiming it was pure aluminum dust and therefore harmless.
You're kidding? So they tried to gaslight him. That's unbelievable.
Yeah. And it gets even darker. Around the same time, miners were actually being forced to inhale aluminum dust as a preventative measure, they said, for silicosis, a lung disease caused by silica dust.
Wait, so they intentionally exposed these miners to aluminum dust? Why would they do that?
Well, they believed, falsely of course, that it would coat the lungs and it would prevent the silica from getting in. They called it, this horrific practice, a gas chamber ritual. Pretty disturbing.
That's awful. It's chilling to think how little regard they had for workers' health. So what ultimately happened to Ebsen?
Well, thankfully, after weeks of being hospitalized, the studio finally relented, and they replaced him with Jack Haley.
Well, I guess they realized they couldn't really replace a pair of lungs as easily as they could an actor.
Sadly, though, even though they changed the makeup to a paste for Haley, he still suffered an eye infection that nearly blinded him.
Oh, wow. It's amazing that they didn't completely abandon the aluminum after Ebsen's experience. But it seems like danger was kind of a recurring theme on the set of The Wizard of Oz.
Absolutely. Ray Bolger, who played the Scarecrow, had his own set of challenges. His makeup was so uncomfortable, and it was so hard to remove, that it left his skin raw and irritated.
Oh, I can imagine. Imagine spending hours in that heavy makeup
Yeah.
under those hot studio lights.
Yeah. He once said that he needed 2 bourbon old fashions every night just to unwind and eat dinner after filming.
2.
No.
Sounds like he earned them. But the Tin Man and the Scarecrow weren't the only ones suffering for their art. What about the Cowardly Lion? What was his ordeal?
Well, Bert Lahr, who played the Cowardly Lion, he had to wear a costume made entirely of real lion skin.
Real lion skin. Just kidding.
Not at all. And it weighed, ready for this, it weighed a grueling 90 pounds. Imagine the heat, the smell.
90 pounds of lion skin in those unair-conditioned studios. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, and the weight and design of the costume made it impossible for him to eat solid food. He was basically limited to milkshakes and soup.
Oh, gosh. That's a liquid diet I wouldn't wish on anyone, especially under those circumstances. The set of The Wizard of Oz sounds more like a hazard zone than a magical land.
You're right. And speaking of hazards, we can't forget Margaret Hamilton, the Wicked Witch of the West.
The Wicked Witch, yeah. That green makeup, I'm sure, couldn't have been good for her skin.
No, you're right. It was copper-based and highly toxic. But what really makes her story stand out are her experiences with fire on set. During that Munchkin land exit scene, there was a premature fire explosion that caused her to suffer severe burns on her face and hands.
A fire explosion. That's terrifying.
And it gets worse. They had to use alcohol to remove the toxic makeup from her burned flesh.
Oh my gosh, that must have been excruciating.
It was. And the studio's response to the whole incident is very telling. While she lay there waiting for the ambulance, the wardrobe woman ran up to her asking for her hat because she had to turn it in.
Are you serious? They were worried about a hat while she was being treated for severe burns.
It speaks volumes about their priorities. Hamilton was out for 6 weeks recovering, and she refused, and understandably so, to work with fire again after that incident.
I can't blame her. But even with her refusal, there was another fire-related accident on set.
That's right. During the skywriting scene, there was a pipe explosion, and it severely burned Hamilton's stunt double, Betty Danko. It left a hole in her leg where her dress fused to her skin from the heat.
This is unbelievable. Two major fire-related accidents on one film set.
Yeah, a shocking disregard for safety. And once again, while Danko lay there waiting for the ambulance, the wardrobe woman appeared, demanding to know what she had done with her hat.
Oh my goodness. That's just callous. You know, we've talked about the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, the Cowardly Lion, and the Wicked Witch, but we haven't even touched upon Judy Garland's experience as Dorothy.
Well, her story, it's perhaps the most tragic of all.
Yeah, it's a story that goes beyond just the physical challenges. It really delves into a level of exploitation that's just heartbreaking.
From a young age, she was body shamed, put on extreme diets by the studio, and during filming, it got even worse.
I've heard about the studio's control over her life.
Oh yeah. They forced her into a restrictive corset to minimize her developing figure.
Yeah.
Then, to keep her working these grueling hours, they kept her on a steady stream of pep pills, which were basically methamphetamines.
They gave it teenager methamphetamines
Yeah.
to keep her going.
Yeah, and to get her to sleep, they would give her downers. It was just this vicious cycle of drugs and deprivation.
That's awful. They really treated her like a machine instead of a human being.
And tragically, the abuse didn't stop there. There are accounts of sexual harassment from some of the much older actors playing Munchkins.
That's just horrific. She was surrounded by adults who were supposed to be taking care of her, and instead she was subjected to this kind of abuse.
Yeah, it's a very dark chapter in Hollywood history, and it's a stark reminder that even behind those bright lights, those dazzling costumes, there can be a world of pain and exploitation.
But amidst all this darkness, there's a glimmer of hope.
Yes, her three main co-stars, the actors who played the Tin Man, Scarecrow, and Cowardly Lion, they were incredibly protective of her. They formed a bond and tried to shield her from the worst of it.
That's really heartwarming to hear. In such a toxic environment, it's comforting to know that she had allies looking out for her. It reminds us that even in the darkest of times, human kindness can make a difference.
And speaking of dark times, there's one more detail about the film that's quite disturbing. Remember that iconic scene in the poppy field where Dorothy, the lion, and the Tin Man, they fall asleep?
Yes. And the snow falls to wake them up.
Yeah.
Beautiful scene.
Beautiful but deadly. That snow was pure asbestos.
Asbestos. Are you serious?
Completely serious. Of course, this was the 1930s, and asbestos was commonly used in things like fake snow for Christmas decorations.
Wow. It's hard to believe they use such a dangerous material so casually. It makes you wonder about the long-term effects on the actors.
Yeah. It's a chilling thought. It seems that the quest for movie magic came at a pretty hefty price for those involved in The Wizard of Oz.
It really did. And while the helm itself continues to enchant audiences, knowing the dark secrets behind the production, it certainly adds a layer of complexity to its legacy.
Yeah. It forces us to confront the reality that even the most beloved and seemingly innocent stories can have a much darker side.
And those darker sides, they often hold important lessons about the human condition, the price of progress, and the enduring struggle, the struggle for dignity and safety in the face of exploitation.
Yeah. It's a reminder that we should never take things at face value, you know?
Yeah.
There's always more to the story than meets the eye.
Exactly. So dear listeners, as we continue our deep dive into the dark side of Oz, keep these questions in mind. How does this new knowledge affect your perception of the film?
Can you still see the magic, or do you now see the shadows lurking beneath the surface?
Let's delve a little deeper into this fascinating and often unsettling world. Stay with us.
Yeah, it's like we're watching the film with a whole new set of eyes, seeing the human cost behind the spectacle.
It really is a powerful reminder that the stories we cherish, they often have this complex and sometimes troubling reality behind them. It's like Dorothy's ruby slippers, losing their sparkle when you see the blisters on her feet.
Exactly, and it makes you think about the broader context of The Wizard of Oz, the Hollywood studio system of the 1930s, and the way actors, especially women, were often treated.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that such blatant disregard for safety and well-being was so commonplace. Imagine the pressure these actors were under, the long hours, the physical discomfort, and in some cases, outright abuse.
Yeah, the psychological toll must have been immense, especially for someone like Judy Garland, who was just a teenager at the time.
It's heartbreaking to think about what she what she went through. Forced dieting, restrictive corsets, being pumped full of uppers and downers to keep her going. It's no wonder she struggled later in life.
It really is a stark reminder
Yeah.
of how the pursuit of fame and fortune can sometimes come at a devastating personal cost. And sadly, her story is not unique in Hollywood history.
No, it's not. It's like a cautionary tale,
Yeah.
reminding us to look beyond the glamour and the glitz, and see the human beings behind the masks.
You're referring to the protectiveness of her three main co-stars.
Yeah, exactly. The fact that they formed a bond and tried to shield her from some of the worst of it, it shows that even in the most challenging environments, compassion can exist. It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, human kindness can make a difference.
Yeah. It's a small comfort in a truly, truly tragic situation. It makes you wonder, though, about the lasting impact of these experiences on the actors. Did they carry those scars, both physical and emotional, throughout their lives?
It's a question worth considering. I think we often focus on the immediate consequences,
Yeah.
the accidents, the illnesses. But what about the long-term effects
Hmm.
on their health, their careers, their relationships?
Yeah, it's like ripples in a pond. The initial impact is visible, but the effects, they can spread far and wide, long after the event itself.
And those ripples can extend beyond just the individual actors. They can influence entire industries, shaping safety regulations, labor practices, and even cultural attitudes.
So the question becomes, did the troubled production of The Wizard of Oz, did it lead to any meaningful changes in Hollywood? Did it force the industry to confront its demons
Yeah.
and implement reforms to protect its workers?
That's a question we can explore further, but for now, let's shift our focus back to the film itself, knowing what we know now about the behind the scenes struggles. Does it change how we view the Wizard of Oz? Can we still enjoy the magic and the wonder, knowing the human cost at which it was created?
It's a complex question, one that grapples with the very nature of art and its relationship to the artist.
It's like that age-old debate. Can we separate the art from the artist? Can we appreciate the beauty of a painting without condoning the actions of the painter?
Or in this case, can we lose ourselves in the wonder of Oz while acknowledging the suffering that went into its creation? It's a question with no easy answers, but it's a question worth pondering.
It challenges us to think critically about the media we consume, the stories we cherish, and the impacts those stories have on both the creators and the audience.
It's a reminder that behind every work of art, every film, every song, there are human beings with their own stories, their own triumphs, and their own tragedies.
And those stories, they deserve to be
Yeah.
heard, acknowledged, and respected.
Because ultimately it's those stories, the ones behind the curtain, that give depth and meaning to the art we admire. They remind us that even in the most fantastical of worlds, the human experience is at the heart of it all.
And as we continue our exploration of the Wizard of Oz, let's keep those stories in mind. Let's look beyond the spectacle, beyond the magic, and see the human faces behind the characters, the people who risk their well-being to bring us a story that continues to resonate
Yeah.
generations later. It's kind of wild to think about Buddy Ebsen's career, after that whole Wizard of Oz thing. You'd think after being in the hospital for weeks because of the aluminum dust, I mean, you'd think he'd swear off acting, right?
It really is something. I mean, he didn't just keep acting, he really thrived. Two hugely successful TV shows, The Beverly Hillbillies and then Barnaby Jones. Barnaby Jones was on for 8 seasons.
8 seasons. That's a long time. But it does make you wonder, did that whole Oz experience change him?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe it made him a little more cautious, on set, more aware of the risks. Or maybe he was just more grateful for all the success he had later on.
Yeah. Could be a little both.
Yeah.
I think it reminds us that these actors, Even the ones who were famous
Mm.
and made a lot of money, they weren't just, characters on a screen. They were real people with
Mhm.
real lives and real experiences, and all that shaped who they were on and off the set.
It's true. There's a human story behind every performance. And sometimes those stories are full of challenges and hardships that we never really know about. It's like looking past the painted backdrop, and seeing all the scaffolding, the wires, the stagehands working behind the scenes to make it all happen.
Yeah. And sometimes those behind-the-scenes stories
Mm-hmm.
are even more captivating than
Yeah.
than the performance itself. In the case of The Wizard of Oz, knowing about the struggles, it adds a layer of complexity to the film. Makes us kind of reevaluate its legacy.
Yeah, it makes us think about the price of entertainment, the sacrifices that people make to bring these stories to bring these stories to life, and it raises questions about the responsibility, of the studios, the filmmakers, and even us as
Which
viewers.
we often talk about separating the art from the artist, but in these cases, it's tough. I mean, can we really enjoy the magic of Oz,
Yeah.
knowing that people suffered to make it?
It's a conversation we need to have. It's about acknowledging the complexities,
Hmm.
recognizing that even beloved stories can have a dark side, and it's about using that knowledge to understand history, culture, the human condition.
It's a powerful reminder
Right.
that there's always more to the story than what we see on the surface. Layers of meaning, hidden truths, narratives waiting to be explored.
And those hidden narratives, they often reveal the true impact of events, not just on individuals, but on society as a whole. So let's bring this back to the big picture. Did the troubled production of The Wizard of Oz, with all the dangers, the exploitation, did it lead to any real changes in Hollywood? Did it spark a movement for better safety, better working conditions, more respect for the
So
actors?
these are all great questions, and they really highlight the importance of looking beyond the anecdotes
Hmm.
and examining the systemic issues at play.
Right. It's about understanding the power structures, the cultural norms, the economic forces that shape the decisions made on that set, and countless others.
It's about connecting the dots between individual experiences and the larger forces shaping our world. Recognizing that even a film like The Wizard of Oz can be a microcosm of larger societal issues.
And these issues, the exploitation, the disregard for safety, the pursuit of profit at any cost, they're not just things of the past. They still exist in different forms today.
Which brings us back to you, our listener.
Yeah.
As we conclude our deep dive into the dark side of Oz, we invite you to think about what you've heard. How does this change how you see the film?
Does it ruin it for you, or does it just make it more complex and
Yeah.
make you ask deeper questions about the stories we tell and how we experience entertainment?
Maybe it even makes you want to learn more.
Mhm.
Hollywood, the actors, how filmmaking has changed, or maybe it just makes you appreciate the magic of Oz
Mm.
in a new way, understanding that even the most fantastical worlds
Mm-hmm.
are created by real people
Mm-hmm.
with real struggles and real triumphs.
Our goal with this deep dive was to peel back the curtain, expose the hidden stories, encourage you to think critically about the world.
Because the world, just like Oz, it's full of wonders and dangers, beauty and darkness, and it's up to all of us to explore it with
Yeah,
open eyes,
yeah.
open minds, question the narratives, and seek the truth beneath the surface.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep. And if you're ready for another journey into the hidden corners of history, be sure to subscribe to the deep dive and join us for our next adventure.
Until then, dear listener, stay curious, stay informed, and always remember there's more to every story than meets the eye.